Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, and everybody inside and outside the ballpark. My name is NovedPlayer, and welcome to episode 75 of the Noved podcast, where we talk to many different creators and communities inside the platform. I'm your host, and with me today, I have a Vtuber, a good homie of mine, and the owner of the Safety Realm. We have Astra Derora.
Hello.
Astra, welcome to the podcast. Hope you're doing well.
I am, thank you.
Good. So for the general listening audience, what exactly do you do inside of VR chat?
So in VR chat, I am a small voice actor. My voice is currently heard in a couple of seance maps as a minor voice, but I'm also working on being a voice and songwriter for a production being recorded here in VR chat called You May Melody or Stellarium. Other than that, I do also stream some games, worlds, just to have fun with everybody and also showcase what there is in VR chat whenever I'm not doing my normal VTuber work.
Oh, fair enough. Well, I guess, kind of the first question I want to ask in that case, what kind of got you started into VR chat in the first place?
So getting into VR chat was more so of an accident. It started back in high school. I was a quiet girl, didn't talk to anybody, but my classmates still wanted to include me in a couple of things. They told me about VR chat, and I got on, trying to see if it would actually be fun. Unfortunately, I didn't get their accounts, so I could never friend them. So I just joined a public world, and ironically enough, I started there. My first world actually being the Abyssal Opera.
Yeah, that's an old one.
It's old, but it still works great.
Yeah. Well, that's what's up. I was gonna say, because obviously, you've been around for quite a long time when it comes to what you do and stuff. So I kind of to, get into topic a little bit. What kind of got you, inspired to do some of the creations you do in VR chat?
I think my main project right now, Hope Together, was actually inspired by mostly project community, with them trying to help people find communities that they want to be part of or fit in with, find their new groups. That inspired me to make Hope Together, which is a project to just help people get into hobbies that they never thought they could do. I want people to voice act. I want people to do artwork, just do what they love to do. So I want this to be an excuse to push them to do it here in VR chat.
No, fair enough. Well, obviously, it's definitely an interesting thing when, people go out of their way to help other people, choose their passions. There's a lot of amazing people who kind of do similar things. So, kind of to start way back in the timeline a little bit, because obviously there was a lot leading up to that point.
Yes.
So I guess, when you first joined VR chat, because obviously it was a while ago, what was kind of one of your first experiences when, going to VR chat in the first place?
My first time being in VR chat, I was just scared. I didn't know what I was doing or what to expect. I only heard of it from classmates, and even then that's back when it was still small, not that popular. You would only see like Josh Dubs on about it. And as I tried to be more and more social, I didn't really have my own bearings until after I met my good friend Woolweeps, who actually walked me through a little bit more on how to navigate VR chat and what I do today. In fact, I was already streaming before I discovered VR chat. So Woolweeps was probably the main reason why I was able to combine the two.
No, absolutely. And obviously we've had Woolweeps on the podcast and, everything she does. So I guess kind of one of the things that I wanted to talk about, because, back in the day, she did run Veracity. And I know you were also like co-owner as well. So kind of explain like what exactly was Veracity and like what exactly did it do?
Veracity back in the day was mostly a support group, or a studio, if you will, helping content creators, not just content creators, we also expanded out to project creators, world creators, and all that. We just wanted a place to help the creators help each other. We want everyone to be successful.
Yeah, fair enough. I would say, because obviously there was a lot of things that came out of Veracity, when it comes to, different content creations and different content creators. well, it's really kind of cool to say that you guys definitely helped a lot of people in that sense. Um, and obviously it's not as busy, nowadays, but you guys have kind of branched off into your own separate projects, and you all are still doing pretty good from all the people that I know from that era. Um, so I guess kind of go a little bit down the timeline a little bit, because obviously, with Veracity, there was other side projects as well, and you started to branch out onto your own. So what kind of made you, kind of start some of the voice acting stuff that you started?
I just wanted to dabble. I wanted to try it and see if I would have fun. One of those, I want to try it just to say, hey, I put my foot in the water. And from there, it was a lot of fun. I now voice in a production for a horror game.
Yeah, I would say obviously there's a lot of chances when it comes to like VAing stuff here in VR chat. So what kind of brought you into like the horror genre of VR chat? Like what kind of sparked the whole timeline when it comes to this?
Okay, to be honest, that was more so I got bullied into it at first. My friends in the early days, they were telling me about HDS, Huggy Dungeon series, a horror game series. This was back when only part 1 and 2 were out. They were telling me about how much they loved it. They skipped out the part that was a horror game. They told me it was a cutesy story game. They had me go through the portal, and first of all, when you go into the lobby of the first part, it's cute. Pink walls, nice calm classical music. Nothing suspicious whatsoever, unless you go to a certain staircase that goes up to a pink door. But I didn't go up there. Instead, my friends just tell me, you ready? Yeah. Press confirm. Okay. I didn't know there's a giant wall of warnings next to me. That's on me for being blind. I go in, and I'm over here getting scared. But I still wanted to understand the story more, so I sucked it up and went through all the horror games that Seon has made. And I just never left.
Of course. Yeah, I mean, obviously there was plenty of maps that Seon had created. And we've definitely covered some of those back on his episode last October. Obviously with one of his bigger projects in the works, the Mind of Official Seon. So definitely excited to see, everything that's going to come out of that, because I know he's in the testing phase right now when it comes to that. Which actually, hopefully, knock on wood, maybe we'll get maybe a sneak peek by, Halloween this season. Maybe, hopefully. Sam, if you ever watch this, let us know. Put a little teaser out or something. But yeah, no, it's definitely crazy, because obviously when it comes to like horror genre, it's its own niche, right? So it's a kind of, and VR being its own niche, it's more of a niche of a niche. When it comes to like VR and horror. So it's definitely kind of cool to see you kind of branched out into that aspect when it comes to some of your VA work. Because obviously there's a lot of different, worlds out there that, a lot of VAs, voice act in. So I guess kind of to, go a little bit deeper into that, what are some of the roles that you've pertained when it comes to like VA work?
So my first role, as I said, this was just to put my foot in the water, is a hidden voice in Seon's FNAF fan game. It's his interpretation of Five Nights at Freddy's Help Wanted. For the most part, a lot of things are pretty similar, almost on point. You'll notice a lot of differences, though, because it's, again, Seon's interpretation. But after you finish each thing, you have a 50-50 chance on getting a voice. And there were, I want to say, around 20 or 30 voices, somewhere between 15 to 30. I don't remember the exact number. I was actually one of those voices. It actually still has my old name of Compared Cat, even. But I was one of the voices you had a chance of getting. From there, my friend Imaginary actually asked me to voice Emily in Tom the Treehouse, a horror game prototype right now being worked on, where the basis is you are hired by Emily, who actually owns Tom's Treehouse Adventures, trying to figure out what's going on with Tom, an animatronic. And then after that, I was also asked by Rituko Yuki, one of my other friends, to voice Hatsune Setsuna in Yume Melody, a VR chat anime about a group of girls wanting to become idols, but not understanding the harsh or dark side of the idol industry, where my character is someone who just came out of that dark side.
Yeah, I would say obviously, all these different roles being different genres, it's definitely kind of cool to hear that you're kind of, retaining roles that are like, not necessarily all the same. That you have a little bit of variety when it comes to your stuff. So that's really cool. Obviously there's a lot when it comes to voice acting. So I guess kind of one of the questions I want to ask, since you've done, I obviously, and this is no shot in the dark. I want to specify when I ask this question, because obviously working on a bunch of smaller projects as a VA, it's definitely a hard industry to get into. So I guess kind of, for maybe somebody who's interested in doing VA work, what's a good piece of advice that you can give when, doing VA work?
The best advice I can give is don't always aim big. That is something you can always do. Always aim big. That is something you are trying to achieve. But to start, it doesn't hurt to look for free gigs. Start off small. Start off as a background. Start off doing your own kind of project that requires voice acting. Do something small, medium, big. It doesn't matter how big or small it is. Just do something to get your voice out there. Showcase what you can do. Demo reels, examples. Cut that part out. You can create demo reels where you can just showcase your range, your pitches, and all that. Ask your friends if they're working on anything that they may need support for. But you also have to understand there are some sad parts to it, such as, hey, you may get a part for a while, but eventually you may end up getting replaced. That is something that happens quite often in some of the major areas or groups, but that is not something uncommon, and it doesn't mean that you're a bad voice actor. It just means they found someone that they really liked that matches the character better. It just means that you have opportunities somewhere else as well because your range matches somebody else's.
Mm-hmm. No, yeah, of course. That's very sound piece of advice because obviously, there are a lot of people who are interested in VAing, and sometimes, it might just barely fit the part, and they might find someone better. So that is a very sound piece of advice. Never take things, straight to heart because obviously there are other avenues out there. Well, that's what's up. I was going to say, obviously, kind of moving on from the VA side of things, because obviously you also do run the safety realm. So I guess kind of for the general listening audience, what exactly is the safety realm?
So the safety realm is my own group or community for my viewers who I call my ambitions. Ambitions mean people who help push me and encourage me to do what I love. And I want to be the same thing to them. I want to help encourage them. So the safety realm is just a group that is put together to give them a safe place to do what they love doing. Because I want to see them achieve what they want to do as well. That's why it's called the safety realm. I want them to feel safe, feel comfortable, and just do what they love doing.
Yeah, of course. And, obviously, it's more for, as you kind of mentioned, it's more for the people that, you want to inspire and, vice versa. So it's really cool to say the least when it comes to that, because obviously there's a lot of creators out there who have their own groups like, VTubers and content creators. So it is kind of cool to hear that, you want to essentially help people within your community, to essentially help them grow and, find their passion stuff. That's really cool. But I was going to say, kind of in that regard. So, obviously, when it comes to, your community and stuff, obviously the name being a very important thing when it comes to it. So what kind of inspired you to name it the Safety Realm?
It was kind of an accident. Originally, it was kind of an accident. Originally, I wasn't even planning on having a group. I never thought I would be someone worthy of having a following like this. So when I first had my server, it was just going to be a roleplay server because I like to roleplay a little bit. But one of my friends who are very close to me asked me, hey, do you have a group or a server I could be a part of? I kind of lost mine. I got kicked. And I said, yeah, I'm working on one, if you don't mind being a work in progress. She said, nope, invite me. I want in. So she was the first person in. And the same thing happened a little bit later. Another friend asked me if I had a group that they can be in because they had to leave another one of theirs. And from there, it kind of just got nicknamed the safety server as a joke. And I decided, hey, let's just make that the official name. I named it the Safety Realm because I love astronomy, the study of stars and space. So I went, it's a Safety Realm now. This is where you guys can be safe. And from there, it just expanded more and more.
No, fair. It's definitely a poetic thing when it comes to that, because obviously, when it comes to, not only VR but IRL as well, friends come and go, groups come and go, cliques come and go, so to kind of base it around that theming, it's definitely a wholesome thing, to say the least. Because obviously it's just one of those things that, no matter whether it's IRL or VR, this type of stuff happens all the time. So that's really cool. Kind of to go more in depth a little bit, because obviously, with your stuff, you also do stream. You are a VTuber at the end of the day. So I guess, kind of one of the questions I wanted to ask, what kind of made you want to start streaming and content creation?
That one's a bit more of a sadder story, but to put it lightly, I struggle to be social in general. I used to struggle a lot when it comes to just talking to people. So I was just watching YouTube and I saw Cinnamon Toast Ken streaming, actually. I mean, I already wanted to try and make videos, but I didn't know how to go about it. And then I saw Cinnamon Toast Ken streaming one day and I asked myself, can I do this? But I didn't want to show my face. At first I was okay with it, but then I realized it would probably be safer if I didn't show my face. So I looked up more and more until I found Twitch, and then I found out about VTubers. I don't know who my first VTuber was, but from there I decided I'm going to do this. I want to learn to communicate with people again. So I thought that this would be a good chance to help me learn to talk again, because it's a good stepping stone for me. Because I'm not talking to people directly. I'm safe behind the screen. I won't feel judged, and if anything happens, I can just press stop.
There we go. So yeah, no, obviously, that's a lot of mindsets when it comes to VTubing, which is a very common thing. Obviously, when it comes to like VTubing specifically, there's a lot that goes down with it, especially since not only do you have, your 3D model when it comes to VR chat, but you also have your 2D model as well. So I guess kind of one of the biggest questions I wanted to ask you, what kind of inspired like your design, when it comes to your models, and like what kind of inspired that?
So the whole fox thing was something I always wanted. I love foxes, especially fennec foxes. They are just adorable. And as I said earlier, I love astronomy, space, stars, even space theory a little bit. I will dabble in that if I have time. But my first model, I will admit, was a lolly model. I didn't understand where to get models at the time. It was just a small one. It was a Teresa model from Honkai Third Impact, her Celestial Nun outfit, if I remember correctly. And one of my friends offered me to do a custom model since they were learning to do it. So my first official model was actually a demon with a bit of a star theme, red eyes with hearts on it, dark purplish hair. And then from there, when I got VR, one of my friends, Meister Bear, they retextured a Google Hollow model, which is actually a Fennec Fox, I believe, model. And that is actually where my color scheme got finalized, because I was just happy with what it looked like. Purple hair, blue ends. At the time, I had blue eyes as well. So over the years, as my character got developed in these 3D retextures from my friends, I finally settled on, it's gonna be a fox, this color scheme. And at first, I actually was a 3D VTuber, because they also had 3D models at the time that were Vroid. And over time, I was finally ready to design my 2D. And from there, that went through so many integrations. I am indecisive. So I have streamed that progress a couple of times. I went through 3 or 4 outfits, a couple integrations. So when I I finally got commissioned by my model Mama Matoko. Even then, we didn't go through what my final design was. My final design was actually communication between what we thought would look better. Originally, it was going to be a kimono dress. We went with something more regal because my aim at this time is being a queen of the safety realm. And it is going to be recreated as a 3D model down the road.
No, I mean, that's fair. And obviously, we'll maybe show some of these designs up on the screen as well, because obviously there were a lot of iterations, as you kind of mentioned. So I guess kind of to backpedal a little bit, because you already mentioned it, so I guess, you mentioned you're into space and stuff. So, tell us a little bit about, how exactly that came about. Like, what got you into, like, the whole astronomy and space themes?
So when I was younger, roughly about middle school, my younger brother, Glitch, he had some posters of different categories. He had some Transformers, he had some racing. One of the other things he had was also a space poster that listed the planets, dwarf planets, and some of the smaller, more known stars, or the more popular stars. And on one of the planets, this was a dwarf planet specifically called Huamwe, if I'm saying that correctly. And I was laughing at this dwarf planet, not because of the name, because of its shape. It's the shape of an egg. My whole astronomy hyperfixation started because a dwarf planet looked like an egg. And I was just curious on why does it look like that. So when I was at school the next time, I started looking into more astrology facts, trying to understand how does this look like an egg? What else is there that may be interesting? And I fell into that rabbit hole deep.
Fair. I mean, space is everlasting, so it definitely, when you go down that rabbit hole, I mean, it's a literal black hole. Like, it goes forever.
Understatement.
Yeah, for real. I would say, that's cool. I would say, obviously, there's a lot of themes when it comes to, like, VTubing and when it comes, like, their inspiration for stuff. Ooh, excuse me. I would say, so it is kind of cool that, you kind of wanted to go down this, path when it comes to, like, your inspirations and your designs and stuff. Because obviously there's, as we kind of already stated, there's been different iterations of your VTuber and, different, themings when it comes, like, the presentation of, like, well, the hair, for example, I mean, is a huge example when it comes to that. So I guess kind of to go down the line a little bit, because I know you'd also mentioned that you are a part of the new VTail Haven, which is an indie VTuber group.
Yes.
So I guess kind of for the general listening audience, what is the VTail Haven?
So currently it is just a group of 4 of us, me, Tessa, Tofu, and Vanilla. We are all just some indie creators just wanting to have fun. A couple of us already wanted to start our own groups. I've tried a couple of times and failed, but that is on me. I'm not blaming the people who I brought onto those projects. I'm blaming myself for not knowing what I was doing. That is all on me. So my friend Vanilla asked if I would like to join his group because he wanted to start one himself. I said yes. We gathered a couple other friends, like Tess and Tofu. Great creators. They are awesome. And we just want to have fun. We are already planning a couple of small projects. I am planning a couple of things very special for them myself, due to I just want to support them as much as I can.
Mm-hmm. No, and that's awesome that, you guys started this, small indie VTuber group. Because obviously when it comes to VTubing and, organizations like that, I mean, this is very topical at the moment, but, I think we can all agree as a collective when it comes to, VTubers and stuff, fuck VShojo. I'm sorry. I wasn't going to mention it on the podcast, but honestly, it's getting to the point now where, like, fuck VShojo. Shout out to all the amazing talents from VShojo. I mean, it's definitely seeming it's definitely seeming like the best way when it comes to VTuber is either to go solo or to do it with a group of friends. When it comes to everything, because obviously VTubing is such a, how do I phrase this? I say VTubing is such a very interesting place. Because as we all know, there's a lot when it comes to VTubing, and a lot of things happen when it comes to VTubing. The list goes on and on and on. So it's always, at least from my personal opinion, it's always best to be able to, mainly stream and content create with a bunch of friends, and just go from there. Or,
Hmm.
do it individually, depending on, your creative expression and everything. It's a 50-50. Depends on what you want to do when it comes to that. So I guess kind of one of the things I wanted to ask in regards to like the whole VTubing thing, I guess when it comes to what you do, when it comes to VTubing, is there any piece of advice that you could give to anybody who's maybe wanting to start out VTubing?
Sure. A lot of this comes from the fact that I have 8 years of experience at this point. 8 or 9 years, depending on when this comes out. uh, some of this will sound repetitive if you've asked other VTubers or other groups, but it comes from truth. First and foremost, if you want to be a VTuber, go for it. You don't need anything fancy. You don't. You can start off small. You can have a PNG. You can have a 2D. You can have a 3D. You don't have to go broke on it. Having a stick figure represent yourself can work even. There is a stick figure VTuber. You don't have to go crazy at first. Put your foot in the water. You don't know if you can swim unless you try. Some people are meant to swim, some people are not. But people who can't swim can still learn. So, if you don't succeed for the first few months, that's okay. This is a world that's hard to get seen, to get your stuff pushed out. You have to keep on going, keep on spreading the word, sharing your stuff. It can seem repetitive for almost nothing, which is a common and sad struggle that you will hit. Only a handful are able to get lucky early on in their careers with it. But that doesn't mean give up. Do not look at the views. Look at statistics after the streams, but during the streams, you ignore that. Just act normal. Act like yourself. Be who you want to be on the stream. This is a chance to show who you want to be seen as. Not be some corporal person just going, yeah, support me so I can do all this in the background. Support me for me, or support me so I can support you. Just show who you are. Have fun with it. If it doesn't work, it is sad when that happens, but you can't hold on to that. You have to be able to admit to yourself, maybe this wasn't for me, but at least I can say I tried. It's not an easy industry. This is something that even now, after 8 years, I'm still learning things myself. But always ask friends and other streamers for their advice. What they use, what they don't do. Ask everybody. This is something that I hate gatekeeping. I am against it.
Yeah, no. Absolutely. I was gonna say it's definitely a thing that is very common when it comes to, well, not just VTubers but streamers in general. That's why when it comes to like streaming, like I'm very open with like streaming with other people, because at the end of the day, I'm playing games with my friends. Like it's definitely something that I always recommend when it comes to that, because all these streamers, they'll do like collaborations and all this, but at the end of the day, they're just playing games together and having fun and causing shenanigans. It's definitely a common thing when it comes to like streaming and stuff. Because obviously you've done many different collaborations with other friends and other people. So I guess kind of to go down that a little bit, there's so many games out there when it comes to like streaming and VTubing and stuff. So in your personal opinion, like what are some of your favorite games to stream and like have fun with?
Personally, I love horror, which is irony because I used to hate it back in my early days. But I love horror because you and your friends can just laugh at each other for being scared over silly stuff or just making fun of each other for the game itself, which is something that I normally do in Phasmophobia. Especially when one person's a ghost, you can still pick up objects and throw it. I have freaked out a couple of my friends doing that. But I also just like games that give us the opportunity to joke together. Games like Monster Prom, Phasmophobia. There are some games that are solo, but I still bring friends on because I like the commentary that they may have. Like, I have played Undertale Yellow, and I've had a couple friends that wanted to voice act some of the characters with me. And it just made it a whole lot more fun because I also got to have their commentary on it because jokes, we were able to have laughs, and plus, giving the characters an actual voice made it seem more personal.
Hello, everyone. Real quick, just want to pause the episode right here. I want to thank this month's monthly supporter, Drowns, and the monthly tipper, Lion Turtle 21. Thank you both so much for the amazing support. If you want to support the podcast, feel free to check out the Noved Squad Hangout, where I have all the creator economy stuff and all that stuff. But, of course, if you're making sure to come back to check out some of the other episodes, might as well hit that subscribe button and make sure to join the group today because we have some amazing events that we're being showcased at that you don't want to miss. So make sure to join the group today. And, of course, let's get back into the episode. Woo! No, 100%. And obviously, there's a lot of different bigger name creators who kind of do similar stuff. Obviously Snapcube and all of those ones as well. So it's always kind of fun to see people's different takes on things when it comes to voice acting, like different parts in the game, or just being absolutely chaotic when it comes to like doing fun stuff. I mean, some of the most funniest memes out there come from those type of collaborations and stuff. I've already said the name, but like Snapcube being one of them when it comes to like the Sonic series. So I guess because it's definitely a very interesting thing when it comes to all that. So I guess kind of to go a little bit further down the rabbit hole on that a little bit. Because obviously not only have you done those type of things, but you also have done like casual games, like different multiplayer games with friends and stuff. I know you've done like you've done VR chat maps as well, just kind of exploring VR chat maps. So in your personal opinion, because obviously, when it comes to VTubing, a lot of them are known for like 2D stuff and playing games with a 2D model, but with VR chat specifically, you have a little bit more free range when it comes to what you can do and, how you can express yourself. So I guess from your personal opinion, since you've kind of done both, do you have a preferred style of VTubing? Do you prefer kind of doing more, in VR, or do you kind of prefer more of the 2D, playing games with a 2D model?
I don't exactly have a preference. This is more so I just love both very much. Like, I do like how expressive I can be with VR. I mean, fingies. But 2D is also not that limited. It's not as limited as people think it is. You actually can have hand tracking with it. That just requires a lot more work and more skill, which is also going to cause it to be more expensive. Which is actually why you don't see it a whole lot with a lot of 2D models. There are a couple that you may see, but that's pretty rare. Because again, it's more so of a expensive skill set that a lot of people, I just don't know who to find for it, or just aren't ready to pay for that out of pocket, which is why 3D is the more common one for anything requiring hands and or legs. But overall, both have a lot of perks. Personally, I like 2D for when I am doing my normal streams because it also saves me a little bit of frame rate, because it's more so, it's a moving image, if that makes sense. While 3D, it's a lot of polys being registered all at once, which can also cause the computers to have issues. So it's more so finding the balance for yourself. Overall, I do like both because both do have their aesthetics. They have niches that I really enjoy. But in the end, I will do either one.
No, that's fair. And, obviously, you've been doing it for a while when it comes to both of them. And I know now, with VR chat avatars, there is a way, I don't remember the exact specifics when it comes to it, but I know, God, I feel free to correct me in the comments if I'm wrong on this, but I believe there is a thing now to where you can make your VR chat avatars into VTuber models. That's a lot more simpler than ever before. I want to say it's modular. I could be wrong. Don't quote me on that. But I've been hearing it around the grapevine for like the past couple of months or so. That there's a brand new, easier way to make your VR chat models into like VRMs and VTuber avatars. Not to mention nowadays we have so many different avenues when it comes to that. Like we have VC Face, we have Warudo, we have all these different softwares and stuff. VTube Studio, like there's so many different programs out there when it comes to that. So I guess kind of one of the last questions I want to ask in regards to VTubing. So when you first started, what was kind of the process of being able to VTube?
So for me, it was more so just figuring out how did I want to be seen for a little bit. I knew I wasn't ready to go full on, and yet I was just testing waters. So I just looked up free programs for VTubers. And one of the first things that showed up was Vroid. Really easy to just take a base model, mess with it a little bit, mess with the looks, mess with the colors, shapes, and all that. There are sliders for just about everything you need. It is a really good starting point. There are a lot of big names as well. There was a witch who used Vroid for so long. It was her. She was very skilled in it. I don't remember her name. But it is a really good free program to use. And if you aren't confident in your skill set, there are also some extra outfits that you can just find on like Booth. And then when it comes to the whole making it move, some people didn't have a webcam at the time, which is one reason why someone may go PNG. But if you want to go 3D, you can still do 3D without a webcam. And the way I learned to do it is something called V Magic Mirror. And it can easily be set up to track your face if you have a webcam, or you can set it up to move with your mic. Basically, the more you spoke, the more your head would move, going blah, 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 blah. Basically mimicking if your head was moving while you're talking.
Wow,
but other than that, he's bullying me.
Wow, on their birthday. Yeah, it's I guess context. We have a friend named Relic, and it's their birthday today. If you haven't wished them happy birthday, you better. I did when I first woke up from work. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, obviously, when it comes to that, it's definitely it's a process. It's a learning process at the end of the day when it comes to, what type of program you want to use, what exactly, essentially there's a lot of things. I think it might be with Warudo that I'm thinking of with the new VTuber thing. I could be, I'm like 99% sure now that it is Warudo that has a newer way of implementing VRChat avatars for VTubing. I could be 100% wrong, but I'm like 99% sure. Feel free to correct me if I'm wrong if you use Warudo and if I'm just talking 100% out of my ass. But it's definitely a crazy thing. I was like, when you did the whole Wawa thing, I do that all the time. Specifically when I'm testing Vizemes, because obviously, with my avatar specifically, I don't use the regular Vizemes. I use the Vizemes on the mask. So it's a lot different. It's kind of a similar process, but I got to make sure it's, correctly going to this rather than the actual like mouth on the actual face. So I just kind of find it funny that you did wah wah wah, because I do that all the time whenever it comes to that. And obviously nowadays with VTubing, there's a lot of more implementations when it comes to VTubing than ever before. You can have your chat interact with your avatar, or whatever the case may be. I know one of the biggest examples of it when it comes to VR chat is actually I'll say one of the biggest examples when it comes to that is actually Dervish. If you're not familiar with Dervish,
yes,
super chaotic gremlin. I actually had the honor of meeting him over at Project Fest this year. In 2025, he just so happened to be in one of the group public instances randomly streaming, and one of the exhibitors of the Great Religion, the Great Pug Group, operator, they had introduced me to Dervish and everything, because they were talking about some of the merch, and they're like, oh yeah, Noved knows a little bit about it, like Noved, come here, and I introduce myself and everything. But you can have literal objects fall on top of your VR chat avatar, or you can have things thrown at you, like on Twitch, or in my case, have a giant stream of water hit you when you try to get hydrated. There's so many things nowadays compared to when VTubing first started. Because obviously with VTubing, it's an ever expansive, it's an ever expansive thing. People are always creating for VTubers. People are always creating new ways to make them more expressive. So I guess one of the questions I want to ask you in that regard, I know I said last question a few whiles ago, but I'm just kind of getting curious now. So, you actually have some redemptions through channel points on your stream as well. So from when you first started VTubing till making all of these, like, what was kind of, from your personal perspective, what was kind of the process of like making things more interactive with your streams?
So for the most part, it was mostly me thinking, is this something that my community actually would enjoy? But also, how much stress is it going to put on me, my computer, and or my team? Because at the time, my team was also slowly being built. A lot of people wanted to be part of the team behind the scenes. So that's the main mindset I always have when I'm looking at these new assets. Because I want a lot of this stuff. I do. Like, it all looks so cool. But the main part is I have to make sure I can handle it. Am I going to be able to stay up and consistent with the updates, making sure it all works before streams? It's making sure that at the very least I'm able to stay up to date with everything. And just making sure if it does work, will my community actually enjoy it? So I always look and see other streamers and see how their communities actually interact with some of these assets, these fun redeems. Like, there's one called TITS, Twitch Integrated Throwing System. We all know the joke there. And what that does is it lets people throw stuff at my model, and it works with 2D and 3D models. So if you ever change your models, it's going to be easily integrated into both. And everyone has been loving that because you can customize what's being thrown at you, how much and all that. Cooldowns are a lifesaver for that, though.
No, 100%. Yeah. It unfortunately, it's gotten to the point where I have to put a cooldown on my hydrate because people will just constantly spam it. So I think I have it set to like a 5-minute like cooldown, I think, at least on my end. But yeah, no, I know with yours, because you have like, where people can throw like a object at you or just throw a bunch of objects at you. So obviously that
1,000 items.
Yeah, so obviously that does take some processing power when it comes to that, because it's spawning 1,000 items, so it's a lot. It's a lot of work on the PC itself, but when it's optimized, it does work very well, and it's very fun for causing chaos on your streams, to say the least. I'll say you'll have to find a clip so I can throw it up on the screen of that, because I know there was at one point you were just getting spammed with it over and over and over again. But yeah, no, I was gonna say, kind of to move on from the VTubing side of things, because obviously, there are some other things when it comes to what you do and stuff. So obviously, while you are a streamer and a VTuber and a voice actor, running the safety realm, you are also, doing some songwriting as well, when it comes to everything. So I guess, kind of to ask the kind of obvious question here, what kind of made you want to create songs and like songwrite?
That's actually because of my friend Yuki. When she first asked me to voice Hatsune Setsuna, I wanted to look into more of the music side of it, because originally she also wants me to sing. We haven't gotten to that part yet, because there are some complications on a couple of ends. But I've also asked her, do you need help writing anything? Because I have experience with a little bit of writing, at least in terms of helping. Also doing some grammar checking every now and then to make sure that some of the writing makes sense. And she said, well, we haven't worked on the songs much. If you want to help out on that, you can. And from there, I've kind of written a couple of songs, some of which are actually in the works to getting fully produced.
But yeah, no, I mean, that's really cool. That you're kind of going down this path, because obviously there's a lot of creation when it comes to songwriting, whether it's coming from emotion or if it's coming from overall just general feelings when it comes to certain things. So that's really cool, because obviously while when it comes to everything you do, you are starting to get a little bit more into the VR chat scene when it comes like advertising your stuff. Prime example, of course, you also do work on the media team with Project Community, whether it's shorts content or other things. So I guess and actually you had a booth this year in the Creator Mall for Fest 2025 as well. So I guess kind of from a staff standpoint into now an exhibitor standpoint, from your personal opinion, when it comes to getting yourself out there, what are some other ways that you've put some of your works out there? Like, what are some ways you've kind of promoted your stuff?
I actually get scared trying to promote myself. I'm gonna be honest. The main way I always promote myself will either be on my own server, on my Twitter, and a little bit on the Ko-Fi. I barely even advertise myself here in VR chat. The most I really do is the poster in someone's little hangout, and also having my stream in my bio somewhere, the link program. Other than that, my friend Rolltide actually has a bot that auto recognizes whenever my Twitch goes off. But I am working on advertising a bit more, especially with my newest project, because that is something I really want to be successful, at least more successful than me.
No, yeah, of course. And, I guess kind of, going into that topic a little bit, with your upcoming project, which is Operation Hope Together, I guess kind of to explain it for the, general listening audience, what exactly is Operation Hope Together?
So Operation Hope Together, which we're going to be mostly calling Hope Together, Operation is going to be more so of a team term because of the works behind it. Hope Together is primarily going to be a hub project. I wanted to create projects. I want to create video projects, world projects. I want to create opportunities for people to try and get into stuff that they may want to get into. Because I've had friends who have asked about voice acting, but they're scared, so I want to give them a chance to at least put their foot in the water so that they can show off what they can do. I want to create opportunities for people to do more art. I want to put in funds for people who need the funds to do what they love. I want to create opportunities for them that they don't realize they can do.
No, fair. I would say because obviously, there's a lot when it comes to content creation and stuff. So to kind of help build, things that well, I mean, it's kind of in the name, inspire hope. It's definitely a cool thing because obviously, at the end of the day, um, a lot of your community always makes a joke about how you're a chaotic being and chaotic gremlin and all that type of stuff. So it is kind of cool to see. I don't want to call it a turn per se or a turn of page, but it's definitely like a newer side when it comes to things, and it is very wholesome at the end of the day. So I guess kind of to go a little bit deeper into that, was there like a specific inspiration when it came to, Hope Together, or was it just kind of on the whim, like, yeah, we should do this type of thing? Like, was there kind of like an inspiration behind the operation itself?
The project itself was a bit on the whim. I never had a way to actually do what I wanted fully. I didn't have a term for it. I didn't have a project. But the basis is something that I was already doing. Especially in my early days. My emotes are all made from my dear friend, my sister Amaya, because she wanted to get her artwork out there as well. So I said, hey, I have the ability, I have the capacity. Can I hire you to do my emotes for me? So I've had 2 or 3 batches of emotes from her as a way to help support her, get her work out there so that people can see them. My model is from my model Mama Matoko. I really want to support her and show what she can do, especially since for her it may be a little trickier because she speaks Japanese, a little bit of Spanish, and only a little bit of English. So I wanted to help her because she's really sweet. She's a good artist. She does amazing work. And especially since around the time I got my model, she was still learning rigging. She's actually still experimenting new ways to rig. A lot of the art pieces I got were to help support people who wanted to get their artwork out there and people who I just wanted to help spread the word on it.
That's what's up. I was gonna say, because obviously when it comes to artists specifically, it's a very, this is gonna sound kind of weird, but like it's a very oversaturated market. And it's especially an everlasting battle, especially nowadays. And I'm a very anti AI person when it comes to art. So it's definitely an everlasting battle when it comes to that. So it is kind of nice to hear that you have people that commission and stuff for your stuff, because obviously it takes a team to make something great. Whether it's emotes or whether it's content creation or events, whatever the case may be, it's definitely a lot of work, and not a lot of people think about that at the end of the day. Like one of the biggest examples, of course, is VR chat events. Usually those take a team of people to make that happen, and they'll spend countless hours working on making sure things, making ends meet. And it's no different for like VTubing and streaming. Like VTubers, for example, they'll have their artist, the model rigger, and all the other stuff. So it definitely takes a team to do so. And there's a bunch of different amazing communities out there that bring VTubers together and stuff. I'm a part of one, for example, Neon Nexus. That essentially brings a bunch of VTubers together, and I actually wanted to talk to you about that at some point. We'll talk about it after stream, but it's nice to where you can meet other VTubers and kind of understand how they run things versus maybe something you might want to do in the future. It's definitely a process at the end of the day. But yeah, it like I was saying, it's definitely wholesome to hear that you have people dedicated to kind of making your stuff. I know I have a dedicated artist right now. Hi, Scout. But it's definitely an amazing thing when it comes to all that. But kind of to go on a little bit of a tangent here. When it comes to everything you've done, obviously you've been around for a while. So you've kind of seen the ups and downs when it comes to everything, so specifically for you, when it comes to everything you've done, obviously, you're still a small creator, who's, having fun at the end of the day. So kind of as another advice question, because you've been around the ballpark so many different times with different avenues, what is a piece of advice you can give to somebody who's wanting to start being a content creator, start pushing themselves, start essentially wanting to become something similar to what you are? Like what's a good piece of advice that you can give?
You don't have to follow the trends. You don't have to do what's popular at all. Your audience will pick up on your energy. So if you're doing something, if you're playing a game just because it's popular, but it's not a game you enjoy playing, they're going to pick up on that energy and you won't succeed at all. But if you just play a game that you enjoy, they're going to enjoy it with you. If it's not something that they like, they can find someone else. In the end, just enjoy doing what you do. Don't worry about all these big names, these big popular trends or anything. You just do you and just have fun. Don't hurt anybody. Don't do anything you're going to regret later. If you do, at least make sure you have it covered.
Yeah, no, 100%. I'll say that's a whole nother tangent that we're not going to go into in this episode, but it's definitely crazy to say the least when it comes to all that. But yeah, we are actually running a little bit out of time. But I do want to thank you so much for coming on. This is definitely a lovely experience, kind of getting to learn a little bit more about everything you do. I mean, granted, I've known you for a while now, but just kind of hear it all. It's definitely a nice thing to kind of sit down and get to chat with you.
I appreciate being on here. It was fun.
No, absolutely. And of course, before we do end things off, I do want to give you a spot to kind of tell the people, where they can find you, any links you want on screen in the description. But yeah, feel free to let them know where they can find you, all the links and stuff. But yeah, go ahead and take it away.
So my main areas to support me would probably just be, I have my Discord server if you guys want to say hi or participate in the projects early on, or my Twitch, which is going to be underscore. Or my Twitch, which is going to be Astra underscore Derora. I also have a Ko-Fi, which is going to be / Astra Derora Randomist, I believe. It's been a while since I changed the name. which is also where I'm going to be posting more updates about the projects. Other than that, I will have a whole list somewhere else. There is a lot.
Fair. And obviously you also do run a VR chat group as well, for maybe those who are interested.
Yes.
So obviously, if you are interested in going in, maybe potentially learning more in VR chat when it comes to Astra, you can always join the link, which is going to be realm REALM.2629. So make sure to go check it out. It has the Discord link, the Twitter and the Twitch link to it. So all of those links will also be down in the description as well. But yeah, I kind of already said it. All the links will be down in the description. So definitely make sure to go check all those out. Any other links that she may give me after the fact, just go down to the description and check it out. But yeah, thank you again for coming on. This is definitely a lovely time, and yeah.
Thank you for having me. I actually enjoyed this.
Of course. Well, ladies, gentlemen, everybody inside and outside the ballpark, that has been it for episode 75. Yes, of the Noved Knows podcast. I want to thank you all so much for watching, listening, depending what platform you're on. Comment down below. Ooh, I got one. Comment down below. What is your favorite VTuber? What is the favorite VTuber you either watch or collaborated with? What is your favorite? Who is your favorite VTuber? There you go. Who's your favorite VTuber?
I want to see those answers.
Yeah, comment down below. Who's your favorite VTuber? We'll definitely check out some of the comments, when the stream's live or when the episode airs, I should say, depending on what platform you're on. But yeah, comment down below who your favorite VTuber is. If you are coming back to check out some of the other episodes, why not hit that subscribe button? You're already coming back anyway. But with that, I want to thank you all one last time for watching, listening, depending on what platform you're on. And I will see you in the next episode. Take care and peace. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to Noved.